Hello everyone, I'm Mrs. Cooling and today I'm reading Bob and the House Elves by Emily Rhonda and Tim Archibald. Chapter 1. Bob the Builder was a very happy man. He lived alone in a little messy house that suited him just fine. He looked after himself quite well. He swept the floor on the first of the month and made his bed on Sundays. He always meant to clean the bath, but it never seemed to need it. Most nights he ate baked beans out of a tin and watched TV. On Saturday mornings he did his shopping, and on Saturday nights his mates came round for a game of cards and they all ordered takeaway pizza. One Thursday morning Bob woke up and went downstairs as usual. He knew at once something was wrong. Someone had cleaned his kitchen. Nothing looked the same, even the kettle. Someone had washed the windows. He could see straight through. He could see his garden and the sun and his new neighbour, Lily Sweet, hanging out her clothes. And on the table, instead of the cornflakes box, was a dainty plate of fairy bread and a flower in a vase. "What's this?" said Bob, amazed. He sat down at the table and ate some fairy bread to settle his nerves. Then he got an awful fright as 3 tiny creatures skittered from behind the fridge. Next minute they were holding hands and dancing in a ring. "Crikey," said Bob. "So that's it. I've got elves." He scratched his bristly chin. "Scat!" he roared and waved his arms. The elves giggled. It was a twittering, twinkling sound that sent shivers up and down Bob's spine. He rolled up his paper and whacked, but he missed. The next day when Bob woke up, his hair was a mass of fairy knots. The whole house was horribly clean and bright, and there were flower petals in the bath, and fairy dust in the cornflakes, and elves everywhere. "Crikey, this is awful," groaned Bob, but things got worse and worse. The elves had cleaned his working boots. They'd washed his blue singlet, mended his shorts and polished his hard hat. He had to go to work all clean, and his mates just laughed and laughed. There was fairy cake in his lunchbox and fairy bread as well. He had to eat them. He was hungry. His mates laughed even more. Bob stomped into the house that night, determined to clean out all the elves. But while he'd been away, things had got out of hand. "Crikey, it's a plague," he said. Tomorrow night his mates were coming round for cards, and he had to get rid of the elves by then. But how? He tried loud music. He tried throwing things. He set traps. He stood and shouted at the top of his voice, but nothing worked. Bob knew he needed help. He ate some fairy bread to settle his nerves, and then he had a bright idea. "I can't be the only bloke with elves," he said. "There must be some sort of cure." Will Bob find a way of getting rid of his elves before his friends come round to play cards? And will he ever get to meet Lily Sweet, who lives next door? Find out more tomorrow.